To protect this wealth, Americans have erected a wall around themselves great and high, and are in the process of welding the gates shut to protect themselves from the overwhelming tide of Mexicans, Haitians, Vietnamese, and so forth, who, in their effort to escape the grinding poverty in which they find themselves, threaten to batter down the walls America has erected against them. The most powerful army in the world stands guard at her portals. Her fleets dominate the seas. 14 Herculean naval battle groups prowl the oceans, each dominated by incalculably powerful supercarriers, oceanic battle stars of immeasurable dread. Trident submarines larger than the battleships of World War II lie in wait beneath the seas, ready to unleash their horror and violence on anyone foolish enough to challenge her preeminence. Her air force overspreads the world with its shadow and makes the nations of the world tremble with fear. But it's not just the American homeland that is in view here, but the American empire. An empire that can be held together only by brute military force. For it cannot possibly be imagined that if the millions and millions, even billions of people that the U.S. has ruthlessly subjected and brought into its orbit had the vote, they would vote to remain in that system. What benefit do those who toil in the sweatshops of America's multinational corporations overseas, or those whose lands are being stripped of their mineral and agricultural wealth, derive from this pitiless and cold-hearted system? No, these people can be held in check only by brute military power. The extent of the American empire can be measured by America's worldwide base system. A base system very similar to the one which held together the empire of ancient Rome. One that has been specifically designed to control the host countries in which these bases are found. Over 132 different countries around the world, and to cower all those other countries in near proximity. Dr. Joseph Gerson, the Director of Programs of the American Friends Service Committee in New England, describes this system as follows. At root, this entire system serves as an integrated global infrastructure for imperial domination. In this it must be noted that the military machine that this imperial base system supports cannot in any way be compared to the relatively archaic, underfunded, and under-equipped armies that Europe, Russia, and China are capable of deploying. It's a super sophisticated killing machine, deploying technologies and equipment unheard of in the armies of Europe, Russia, and China. Dr. Chalmers Johnson of UCLA reports, quote, "It's not easy to assess the size or exact the value of our empire of bases. Official records on these subjects are misleading, although instructive. According to the Defense Department's annual base structure report for fiscal year 2003, which itemizes foreign and domestic U.S. military real estate, the Pentagon currently owns 702 overseas bases in about 130 countries and has another 6,000 bases in the United States and its territories." Johnson continues, "Once upon a time, you could trace the spread of imperialism by counting up colonies. America's version of the colony is the military base. By following the changing politics of global basing, one can learn much about our ever larger imperial stance and the militarism that grows with it. Militarism and imperialism are Siamese twins joined at the hip. Each thrives off the other. But while this space system is a wonder to behold in its breadth and sophistication, one must bear in mind that it exists solely to impose a brutal system of misery and sorrow on those over which it stands guard. It is not a system of democracy, but one of brutality and tyranny. In a very real way, this system works more as a system of intimidation than it does of actual warfare. When everything is working properly, this system operates as a strategic backup to the indigenous militaries of America's slave states. It's these forces, that is to say the indigenous forces, that do most of the fighting and dying in support of the American New World Order system. The first line of defense in America's system are the militarized local police forces of America's slave states. These forces do not necessarily exist to serve the public over which they have been given charge, as they do to keep that public in line. Backing up these local police forces is the national police apparatus of the slave state under the control of the country's Interior Ministry and the Interior Ministry's paramilitary forces, that is to say, the death squads. Behind the national police forces of the Interior Ministry stands the National Army, backed up occasionally by American Special Forces, that is to say, Delta Force, the SEALs, and so forth. Finally, the American military itself stands at the ready behind all these forces to intervene whenever necessary to quash the occasional uprising that may get too far out of hand. These forces are located at the ready in America's base system and offshore on America's carrier battle groups.